Had a little change in our lineup, as I understand that Coach Rowe's team actually has the early practice this afternoon, and Coach O'Regan went ahead and said, let's give the floor to Coach Rowe, and we'll do that in just a moment. Let me throw a couple of things out. First of all, the Dukes a couple weeks away from opening up the season. They entertain the Bridgewater Eagles on November the 10th. Game time is 5 o'clock, and as always, you can watch all the home games on Matazone HD Sportsnet. A couple of other names to throw out, Joey McClain and Ramon Snowden. You know those two? Well, you got a lot to learn because a lot of other new faces for the Dukes here in 2017-18. And to talk about those new faces and how practice is going thus far as the Dukes get ready for their opener, let's bring in Lou Rowe, second-year head coach of the Dukes.
Thank you. It's good to be back up here. Good to see some familiar faces. Can't believe we're this close to the season starting again, but it's right around the corner. Thanks, Coach O'Regan, wherever you're at, for letting me go. And I do want to say that I do trust my staff without me being there for a little bit to get practice ready, but I am itching to get back, so I appreciate it, Coach O'Regan.
Coach, let's talk about this basketball team this year. So many new faces, and realistically, it's going to be a dramatically different-looking team. For fans who've not had a chance to see them or know much about them, what is this team going to look like when you put them on the floor this year?
Well, I hope and I pray at the core that it's still the same. I hope we have guys that play as hard as the guys that went out to, especially the end of last year, the way the team was playing. I want us to play as hard and as together. But you know, hopefully, you know, we try to recruit a little more length, a little more athleticism, but still that toughness and that effort and energy you want to stay the same. So, but definitely some more athleticism and a little bit deeper than last year, I hope. A lot of young guys, but a lot of guys that got to step up and play.
I know defensively this team is nowhere close to what you want it to be. How much of that is sort of all the new guys learning your scheme and sort of what you want to do? How much of that is still getting to play with the sort of heart and effort and passion that Paulie and Yvonne and company played with towards the end of last season?
Well, I think the majority of it has to do with learning a new system and being younger guys, not knowing what to expect from Division I level basketball. All of those guys were very seasoned. They were also very eager to get an opportunity. I feel like these guys have that in common. They're very, very competitive. They're very eager. I think they're appreciative of the opportunity. But there's just a learning curve. And, you know, the young guys and new guys that are trying to learn my system as well as get their feet wet with, you know, Division I. I've said so many times in the past 3 weeks, you know, this is what you can expect from Division I basketball. And those guys, they really have no clue. We're just pointing out, you know, anytime we can, a teaching moment to let these guys understand that there's a big difference between high school and college, and I think that's the biggest thing.
Coach, your team took an overseas trip over the summer. How did that help with the learning curve that you were just talking about, and what did you see out of your team during that portion of the summer that you like, that shows that your team has potential for this year?
Well, what I was pleased with, it was something that we evaluated in the process, but you never know. The competitive nature of the guys and the way they played together, I was really, really pleased with. Very happy with, and we had a bunch of different games. We had a game where we were down big in the first half. Came back, I think the team scored 18 or 20 points in the second half, and we held them to a really low shooting percentage. Now, it wasn't concept so much, it was way more competitive nature and just guys really competing and giving effort. I don't think that, you know, some of the concepts, guys were all out of place, but we played really hard. We had another game, we were up in the second half, and the team came back on us, really tough team, and we had to fight and compete to hold on. So I think some of those experiences were really valuable. We got some guys, the competition was really good. The teams over there were good teams and older teams, so the guys got some experience. And, you know, as much as anything, I was pleased with the fact, because we wanted to recruit competitive guys that were tough. And I think that showed itself, you know, much to our pleasure in those games in the Virgin Islands.
Can you talk a little bit about Joey McClain? How have you kind of seen him progress over the last year?
I'm almost afraid to speak on it. He's playing really, really well. And not so much that the ball's going in the basket, but I just think he's at a really good place. We do some things differently with our guards they have a lot of responsibilities in our offense, especially in our early transition, trying to push the ball. And I think last year I know last year was all new to him. And this year he's really comfortable with me, I guess. I hope he is. And I think he has a comfort level with himself. He's always at ease. He never really gets flustered or pretty even-keeled guy. And I just think he's really being himself. That's what I always say. I actually had a meeting with DeVale Phillips this morning. And I tell these guys all the time, I want Joey to be Joey. I'm going to meet Joey where Joey is, and I'm going to try to, we're going to try to make the best of that. So I don't want him to be anything other than who Joey is, but I am trying to make him the best Joey. And I think he's in a really good place right now. And so I'm loving coaching him, and I hope that he stays here. Not highs and lows of wins and losses and the ball not going to the basket, but I hope he stays in this place emotionally, and because I think he's going to have a really good senior year if he can keep it up.
Coach, how much of this learning curve is them communicating the way you want them to? I know that was a big thing for you last year, the guys being on one page and talking and communicating. With young guys trying to learn a different scheme and then trying to learn to talk that scheme, how is that communication development going for you?
Well, that's the whole ball of wax. Honestly, I know we keep harping on it, but it's not. We're teaching new concepts, and there's a lot of teaching going on, and there's a lot of new terminologies, and there's a lot of new principles. There's a lot of things that we do differently defensively, and it takes a lot of effort. And so, as a staff, we're preaching patience with ourselves before we go out. We all talk. We say, listen, let's be patient. We're going to have to stop stuff and keep going over it and over and over it. But it's all new to them, and it's they're young guys, and they're guys that are new to the program, and we asked some things. And going back to last year, those guys, even though the concepts were new to them, they had been around college basketball and they understood and picked it up. And whereas these guys, it's not like they've never been in a Division I basketball game before. So a lot of times you're telling them something, and they're like, coach, I can get away with doing that. And I'm like, trust me, you cannot get away with doing that. Some guy from Towson is going to be on your back trying to get that rebound. So it's just just continuing to be patient and continuing to teach them. It's normal.
How important is Cam Smith to the front court, considering I think every other forward you have on the roster has a combined 13 games of Division I experience?
I think everybody's really, really important. Really important. And listen, I love Cam. I love this team. I love all the guys. I was talking to DeVale about that this morning, how much I'm enjoying coaching this team. I recruited Cam to FIU. And so he has a really special place to because I left, and he had some struggles at FIU. And so I'm just really pleased to see how happy he is. Seems like he's happy on and off the court. A healthy Cam is a fifth-year senior, really athletic, really physical, long arms, really understands selfless basketball. He is really only here to try to help us. And so to have a guy like that in your program, obviously, is really big. I don't want to put more importance on him than on any of those guys, but I do think there's some things that he can do from a leadership standpoint and showing some of the younger guys, Zach, Greg, even Skiz and Dwight, kind of how you're supposed to play, because he naturally three-quarters. He naturally is physical and boxes out. He's a fifth-year senior. That's what you get with a fifth-year senior. So I just want him to be kind of that non-vocal leader and kind of show the guys the way as much as he can on what it takes at this level, and just be happy being here.
Listen, but the experience, this team does not have a lot of experience, obviously. I mean, just his experiences at FIU and playing the amount of games as he's played, how important is that sort of resource for a young team that's still trying to figure out, like you're talking about, how to play basketball at Division I level?
Again, I'm going to go back to it. I talked to DeVale Phillips for about an hour this morning, and we talked about quote-unquote experience. You look at the experience of this team. Stuckey Mosley really played 1 year at Toledo. He had one, freshman he played a little bit, but he played a lot his sophomore year. Then he sat out last year. Skiz doesn't really have a wealth of experience. Joey played as much as he's ever played last year. Ramon came out of sitting out a year and played a little bit last year. So when we talk about the experience of my team, the guys that we say quote-unquote are experienced don't really have a lot of experience. So Cam does have a lot of experience, and that's important. He's, it's funny to say, but he's one of the more experienced dudes that we have on the roster. So, so we have to tap into some of that, and that's why him being in practice and being around the guys is so important.
As you enter your second year at JMU, what's the biggest thing you learned about being a head coach from year one?
You always say this stuff, and I've been around a lot of guys that were in my situation. I was actually really blessed in a way. I worked for two guys who were getting their program started, and I was around them, helping them get their program started. And there's a lot of pressure. You have a lot of ideas. And, then you get the job, and you got all these decisions that you have to make. I would say the things that I've learned are to trust myself, trust the things that I feel, because at the end of the day, it is what it is. These jobs, I tell everybody there's a short shelf life on these jobs. You can't be worried about that. You have to trust that you're going to do the things that you want to do, and hiring really loyal and people that you're comfortable being around. And because it's a battle every day. It's work every day. So making sure that you surround yourself with people who kind of have the same goals and are built the same way as you, and so that way you can go to work and enjoy the work every day, which is what I'm doing.
What are your thoughts about your non-conference schedule? Do you kind of like the schedule that you have?
Yeah, I think it's a really good schedule. I think it's a tough schedule. I think maybe, but outside of Florida, I think it's top 10 in the country. There's nobody that maybe makes the outside world say, wow, but I love games against like Old Dominion and Richmond, even for me personally, because those are old CAA rivals. Really, really good teams, really, really well-coached teams. George Mason, another CAA rival, again, well-coached, really good coach with a great, obviously, a great resume. And then there's some low, like, Radford's a good game for our, for the fans. It's another Virginia school. Charlotte's another Conference USA opponent. So I think they're really, really quality opponents. I think there's some panache to some of the games. It's, especially for me, these guys don't appreciate it. But for me, Old Dominion, Mason, and Richmond are really good games. And I think they're going to challenge our guys. I think, some of the styles are really good, considering Richmond and Mason. Just some of the styles are really good styles to play to get us prepared for the CAA. So I think overall it's a really good schedule for our guys, for me personally, and for the fan base.
I know you have 17 days to opening day, so I'm not going to hold you to this, but do you have a sense of sort of what your starting five is going to look like in your rotation, or is that still all kind of playing out?
No, I don't. All these guys are earning minutes. They're working really hard. We are really behind defensively, to me, and it's a concern. So, I don't want anybody, and I promise you this, I don't want anybody to feel like they have a spot. We have to get better defensively, rebounding. And so there's going to be 5 guys out there that I trust that are going, and again, we got a ways to go, and I know there's only 17 days left. Actually, you putting a number on it was kind of scary. But no, we need to get better defensively, and I don't want anybody to feel comfortable that they've done enough now we got 17 more days to work.
I feel like you bring up the Pauly hedging the ball screen against Charleston, the CAA tournament, every chance you get.
Have you seen that clip?
I've seen
It's one of the better basketball clips that I've seen a player make. It's unreal.
How do you get this current team to sort of make those type of plays? Is it just the experience of being in games? Is it things that you can teach in practice? How do you sort of teach, I guess, that sort of effort, that sort of, the ability to recognize where you need to be?
Well, I'll say this. I'm not having an issue at all with our guys' effort. These are my guys, and I love them, and they come to work every day, and they play really hard. That's just their nature. They're really competitive guys. But there is something to be said for being in those situations and understanding those situations, and I think Pauly had a really good feel. He had a really, really good feel, and I know he probably is somewhere, if he's listening, he's mad at me for talking so much about it. But no, he had a really good feel. He embraced hedging the ball screen. He embraced the way that our style of defense, and I think it freed him in certain ways and allowed him to play really happy, and which is what I want to give to those guys. So no, it's not about the effort. The effort is here for our guys. It's just about getting them to understand the concepts and why you have to hedge this ball screen this way and then run back and get into the gap. And that's just, our defense requires a lot, and we ask a lot of our guys, and that's why I give them so much freedom offensively. I want our guys to play as hard as they can on defense, trust each other, and then let's go push it on offense and try to get a bucket. You work that hard on defense, let's go play and be free on offense.
Have you started to see the freshmen maybe break out of their shell a little bit and kind of use some of that competitive fire that you were talking about to kind of maybe push some of the older guys, some of the quote-unquote more experienced guys on your roster?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's human nature. As you get more comfortable and, you feel like you're older, it's like that maybe in the workplace and a lot of different places. As you get comfortable and you know what it takes. So you can, there's some places you can cut corners a little bit. But our young guys, they haven't gotten to that point yet. And I do think sometimes when maybe Ramon or Joey or Stuck want to, chill a little bit, Matt and Banks and Greg and Zach and Dwight, they're not letting you, they're going right back at you. Even if it's a mistake, even if they're making a mistake, they're not. So I do think that the consistent level of our practice is raised a little bit by having those guys. And it's not to say that the older guys are lazy or anything like that, but it's just human nature. It's great to have a competitive environment because it keeps everybody on their toes.
Have you talked to your father recently? And if so, what were those conversations like between the two of you?
He has some favorites on the team. There's some players that he really likes. And I'm a guy who doesn't like to get, one day at a time. If he had a good day today, that's fine. So my dad is always calling to check on some of his kind of favorites. He loves the entire team, but he has some favorites, and he's pulling for them, and so he's calling and checking on those guys, and I don't really give him what he wants to hear. So, but yeah, we talk plenty about the team. My mom as well. Obviously they were riding back from Georgia, and they called me. My mom just bought a new car, but anyway. And so they're driving back from their vacation home in Georgia, and my dad's like, I haven't talked to you in a couple of days. I need to know how are my guys doing. I told him, Dad, they need to play better defense.
I'll finish up with this. I mean, pretty new coaching staff around you now this year as well. How is that cohesion or that chemistry being built? How's that going? I know you know a lot of these guys, but how's the staff chemistry going?
I mean, there's a reason I chose this staff, just like there's a reason I chose these players. I thought all the players that we evaluated were competitive. I thought there was some athleticism to them. I thought there was some grit, some toughness. I thought they were JMU type of kids, on and off the court. And it's the same with my staff. There's a reason that Coach Summers is here, besides the fact that he knows some of the beeline offensive stuff. But no, there's a reason that he's here. He brings toughness. There's things that I tell recruits all the time. I want everybody on my staff to be a reflection of me. So if I'm not in the office, you're going to go down the bank of offices in our building, and you're going to get the same message. You're going to get the same thing from every guy. You're going to be supportive. It's going to be some tough love when you need it. You're going to be able to sit down and talk to us and be real and honest. And all of us have experienced a level of basketball. Like Coach Johnson's been to maybe 4 NCAA tournaments. There's extreme value in that. He's a very, very tough guy. And he demands toughness. Like that's what we want. We want the entire culture to be toughness, competitiveness, but also some guys that can be a role model to the guys that they're around. That's very important to me. So all these guys reflect that, and it's that's why they're here.
Coach, thank you very much for joining us here today. We're going to let you get back to practice, and we're going to bring in Coach O'Regan in just a moment. So thanks. He'll be back again in a couple of weeks before the Dukes open up Bridgewater and Old Dominion the opening weekend.
Thank you, and go Dukes. And thanks, Coach O'Regan. I appreciate it.